In this computer lab, we're going to go through and take a look at the segment bisector and angle bisectors. We're going to do two separate sketches in this activity, and we're going to save it as one file. So I'll show you how to do that as well in Geometry Sketchpad. Let's start out with a segment. We're going to do a segment bisector in the first example here. So what I want to do is I want to create a segment on my screen. Remember, by holding down the Shift key, that'll make it a horizontal line. And then the point in the middle of this segment is called your midpoint. So I'm going to click on the line and I'm going to construct midpoint. Okay. So what I want to do here is I want to expose each of the labels. I'll do them in order that I want them. So A, B, and this is actually going to be C, but I can double click on point C and rename that M. Okay, so now I have segment AB with midpoint M. Next thing that I want to do is I want to measure some distances. So I'll come back to my select arrow and I want to find the length of AM, measure distance. I want to find the length of MB and I want to measure distance. If M is actually the midpoint of the segment AB, both of those distances, AM and MB, should be the same length. Okay. The next thing I want to do is I want to create a segment bisector, a line that is a segment bisector. So I'll select the line tool. I'll select point M, and then as I come up, that'll give me my other point on the line. Let me expose a label here. And I'll go ahead and rename that C. So your letters should match my letters as we're going through. So here, MC, line MC, is a segment bisector of segment ABC because it goes through the middle of the segment. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to actually do some typing. So text tool, click down here. I want this to be a 36 font. And it does not need to be bold. It should not be bold. And I want to write, first of all, M is the midpoint of segment AB. So underneath your math tools here, you have your symbol notation. If I click, notice it says AB with a segment bar over the top. If I click on that, it's activated. Now I can type whatever letters I have. AB would be the segment. Unselect that or deselect it, and it'll turn the segment bar off so you can put your period. So M is the midpoint of AB is my first statement. My second statement would be line CM is a segment bisector of segment AB. So line, I'll click on the line tool here, and that was CM, capital C, capital M because they're points. Turn it off is a segment bisector of segment. So I got my segment tool on now. Oops. AB. This should be segment AB. Turn the segment tool off. Put a period in there. And when we do these statements, we always want them to be all on one line. So M is the midpoint of AB. CM is the segment bisector of AB. And we also want to write created by in your name. Again in 36 font. And then up top, we want to name the lab. And this can be 48 font and it should be bold. 48 in bold. Segment bisector lab. All in one line. Okay. Before you print, we do want to go to File, Page Setup. We want this to be landscaped. And we also want to go File, Print Preview to make sure everything's on one page before you print. So that is your segment bisector lab that you will do. Make sure everything is spelled correctly and we have the correct fonts with the correct statements on our drawings here. Once you have that constructed, what we want to do is we want to create a toggle switch between a segment bisector lab and an angle bisector lab. So to do that, you can come up here to File, and if you come down to Document Options, my document options, this was page 1. So in place of page 1, I'm going to type segment bisector. And then when I click down in the box, it'll write segment bisector. And I'm going to add a new page. So add a new page. We want it to be a blank page. And we want, instead of number 2, we want this to be angle bisector. And you can click OK. And what you created down here is a toggle switch. It goes back and forth between segment bisector and angle bisector. So when I save this document, it's going to save both sketches. Now under angle bisector, this is the one we're going to construct angle bisectors. Angles are formed by two rays with a common initial point, the same initial point. So let me start by drawing a ray horizontally. Holding the shift key down makes it horizontal. And let's make an obtuse angle with for my angle. So I go back to my initial point and start my second ray. And then we'll expose the points because I want these to be in order. I want this to be angle ABC. I'll grab the select arrow and I'll click off. Now I want to bisect this angle. Bisecting meaning breaking into two equal or congruent angles. So angle AB, let's try it again, angle ABC, and then construct, and there's your angle bisector. Constructing an angle bisector, we need to put a point on this angle bisector so we can talk about the angle and also the bisector. And we'll grab our arrow key. That should be point D now. Okay. So let's show that this is an angle bisector. To show it's an angle bisector, we need to select angle ABD and measure that angle. And select angle DBC, and we can measure that angle. Notice both of them are 62.8 degrees in my case. Now your measures may be a little different because your angle ABC is going to be a little bit larger or a little bit smaller. But as long as they're equal, you did this correctly. Now we're going to go through and we're going to type what we have. This should be in 36 font, and it should not be bold. And first thing that I want to do is I want to say that this is a angle bisector. So we'll go ray, select the ray down here, and that would be ray BD. Remember, you start with your initial point B going through D. So BD, turn off the ray symbol, is an angle bisector of, and that would be angle ABC. Okay. BD is an angle bisector of ABC. Why is it an angle bisector? Because it broke the angle into two equal or congruent parts. So the next part that I want to do is I want to write angle ABD is congruent. Here's your congruency symbol right here to angle DBC. Remember, the letter B has to be in the middle of each of these because we talk about this angle as ABD and DBC. B is your vertex, so it's in the middle. Okay. Also here in 36 font, we want to write created by in your name. And we also need to title this sketch. So we're going to go 48 and bold. Whoops, I'm sorry, this got messed up here. Let's create our text box first. And now in the text box, we want to go 48 and bold. And we'll call this angle bisector, B-I-S-E-C-T-O-R, lab. Okay. And we want to make sure angle bisector is not touching any of the rays. If it touches and you can't avoid it, open the angle just a little bit bigger, and it should fit in the upper left-hand corner. Okay. Again, we'll go File, Page Setup. Make sure that this is on Landscape. And we always go File, Print Preview to make sure it's on one page before we print. So this is pretty nice. So when you save your document, I would save this as Bisector Lab. And now you have the segment bisector and the angle bisector all on one document. Okay, I'll go ahead and leave angle bisector up so if you're watching the video, you can see exactly what this should look like. And that will conclude the Sketchpad lab for segment bisectors and angle bisectors.